Welcome to Dacey's Divas. Hi, I'm your host, Dacey. Today we have a great diva. She is a life coach and astrologist. And please welcome this beautiful diva, Janet Eisenberg. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me here
Thank
today.
you for coming on the show, and thank you for reaching out. We cannot wait to hear all about what you do. Just give us a little information, though, a little background about, a little background about who you are first to start, and then we can get into everything else.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I'm a wife, a mother, a working woman, a life coach. Just, a sister, daughter, I take care of. I'm, the present person for my mother, who's aging.
Yeah. So where are you from? You're from Andover?
I'm from North Andover.
Yeah?
Yep, North Andover.
So it was very interesting before we started the show that you talked about being an astrologer. So
yes.
Talk a little bit about that and how that kind of goes role play with being a life coach.
As a life coach, I think what I bring to life coaching is I work with tools, both astrology, of which I've been a lifetime student.
And how long have you been a life coach, Janet?
4 years now.
4 years,
Four
okay.
years. I am a certified life coach with the International Coaching Federation.
And what did you do prior to that?
Well, I've been an astrologer for years.
Yeah.
And I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time, during which time I really undertook a serious study with esoteric subjects, really,
Right.
whether it's astrology.
Tarot cards.
Tarot cards,
Okay.
right. Just understanding energy. I've been on a lifelong pursuit myself of self-understanding, self-awareness.
Okay, so 4.5 years you started the life coaching, and what do you do for the life coaching? Who do you coach, and what does it entail?
Primarily, I like to work with women of a certain age that may be transitioning in their life, that are just sort of trying to...
Older or young?
Older. And I've worked with younger women as well. But transitioning from one stage of development to another and sort of easing that process.
Like reinventing themselves?
Reinventing themselves, okay. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. So in a life coach, I call you up. Hi, Janet, I need help. What are you going to do? You're going to have me come in and...
Yeah, well, we'll first talk about what you might be what you might be looking for, what might be lacking. And as a coach, you have all of the answers. My role is not to provide you with answers, but to help you to locate those answers. And in that, this is where astrology is very helpful, because astrology is a map of your consciousness. It's a map of your psyche. And all of your prevailing themes in life, your motivations, what motivates you, what you're looking to accomplish, what you require in your life, all of these things are readable.
Right.
So you can, by looking at an astrological chart, you can key right into these fundamental aspects of a person. And then on top of that, you can, because astrology is not static, it's dynamic, it's always moving through time. We begin with your basic natal chart, which is a blueprint. It's a soup, a recipe. It shows who you are.
So what do you need for that?
Your birth time, your birthplace, your date of birth, obviously, time and place. And if the time is highly suggested, because it actually maps out all of the areas in life, all of life is readable in an astrology chart.
Okay.
Everything from the need to be autonomous, to security, to communication, to belonging, self-esteem. You go all the way around it. All of these areas are reflected in the astrology chart. And when there is an issue, that too is readable. You can see that. You can see the areas that somebody may stumble again and again and again, repeat patterns of behaviors. That's all readable. And also, one of the best pieces, in my opinion, aside from that, which is pretty amazing by itself, is that it's a timing device. You can see way into the future, if you will, what areas of life are going to be impacted, how they may be influenced by incoming energies. But it's really not happening upon you. It's reflective of your internal readiness. And that's what the gift of astrology really is it reflects your internal state of subjective awareness, who you are, who you think you are. Right. And when you're beginning to feel uncomfortable, let's say you're in a relationship and you're married and you're uncomfortable in this, that is going to be reflected in your chart. The timing as to when an event, you may be the provocateur of the event, or it may be, or you may be the recipient of an event. But if something is to happen to change the pattern that you're in, that you want to have changed, that's the key, is there is a desire. It's a two-way street.
So you guide, but how do you stop the pattern? How do you stop the pattern from someone repeating, like you just mentioned?
By looking at the overall, the strengths and the weaknesses, having conversation, obviously, about both strength and weakness, and in the moment being able to access or becoming aware of where a strength may be that could be used to pull you out of a weak area.
So give us an example of someone that
Me.
you recently. Okay. All right, go ahead.
Is ideal, because for me to do this is challenging. It's not in my wheelhouse. It's not in my ease.
Right.
So I knew that for me to grow in a way that I really fundamentally need to grow, I would have to reach out in a way that is uncomfortable and do something that's uncomfortable for me. Right. And this will be one more step in the ladder towards my ultimate destination, which is some sort of freedom, which I won't go into the details. I understand them myself.
Right.
So it's just one piece of a larger puzzle that is a necessity for me. Now, given the fact that I understand this, I also know that, and this is the rub, that I don't have to do this. I could have avoided it entirely and scurried into more of a distant corner, which is really more my comfort zone, and remained there. But I would always have this tug, subtle, of dissatisfaction, because I wasn't doing what I'm being pushed internally to do, what is required by my inner, by my inner self, not my personality self, but the inner self.
Now, your mom got you involved in this, astrology? Explain that, please.
Yes, my mother was, she studied it, not in the way that I did, but my mother was my initial introducer to astrology. She had an interest in it. So she was constantly, she read a lot, and I'm very like my mother in a lot of ways. She, she was a reader. She always read books that expanded her on the, for her it was more on the religious side. For me it's more on the spiritual side, but always the need to self-develop. Right. So she was my initial introduction to self-development.
Okay. So in the last 4 years, how many women have you helped and got them on the right path? Can you?
Oh, I don't know. It's probably just a continuous process. I don't have a number specifically.
Okay.
And I consider myself constantly in communication in that sense. That's kind of my role in life. I always feel as though being present, I think, is being a listener, hearing people. And so I can be in the supermarket and within moments, whomever is behind me or in front of me, I can be in conversation with them and they're sharing with me parts of themselves that are very deep, because I can bring that out and leave them, hopefully. My goal is always to leave people a little better than when I found them.
Is there a good story that you can tell, that's someone that you really did help for a woman recently?
Yes, actually. Struggling with career, a woman that was really having a difficult time and would constantly apply for jobs over and over and over again.
And how old was she?
She was in her 50s, is in her 50s. And we're still in communication, but I'm no longer coaching her. But we had a coaching relationship that went on for 3 months, during which time she we would meet and she would plan a list of activities. She would assign herself homework. And then of necessity, she would let me know. You know, she would check in with me and sort of confirm what she has done as sort of a backup, someone who is you're responding to someone, you know. So she ultimately did go on, and she developed her own line of materials, and she's doing very, very well.
That's
and
great.
she's very happy.
That's great.
Yeah.
So how do you incorporate the life coaching, the astrology, and now you have the tarot cards?
Yep.
So how do you work with the tarot cards? I come in, are you going to say, oh, you're going to meet a man, Dacey? Or you're going to have good health, or there's death. Like, I know the tarot cards because I've had my cards read, and you're always looking for that little sign of hope. But how do you integrate all that?
In conversation, when first I need to develop a level of trust.
Right.
Because clearly, and I need permission as well, because I view it as truly looking inside of someone as a mirror, really being able to see deeply into them.
Right.
So I need permission. I don't want to invade someone's privacy without their acknowledgement. So I explain that, first of all, that it gives me the ability to see
Right.
how you really are put together.
Do you have them sign a consent form, or do you have to
Oh,
do
no,
that?
no, it's conversational. We've already developed a relationship.
Okay.
Through that, in the course of a conversation, let's say we come up to a sticking point. I might say, shall we pull a card? Let's look at this.
Right.
And generally speaking, in the course of a coaching session, I will have them pull the card. I will have them hold them. They need to experience it.
Right.
And then I'll have them put them out and pull a card, and then we'll talk about that card, what that means.
Right.
And my role is more to be a provocateur, ask questions.
Right.
What does it mean to you? That way the answers are already yours.
Right.
And my role is to really help to bring those out so that you can see them, bring them out from the depths and put them on the table so we can discuss it.
Right.
And maybe work from there.
Now, do some of the ladies like the cards? Are they mortified when they see one of the cards, and how do you calm them down, or do you just try to work with them?
Well, people bring their own belief systems to
Right.
the cards. There's a lot of fear. And when you enter this realm of understanding, number one, traditionally, the study of astrology and tarot, they're anachronisms in our world today. They're considered, to be a practitioner, there are two roles that are commonly designated, a fool or a fraud.
Right.
To work with it in a deeper sense, as I do, eliminates that. I know that, but I know also that depending on whom I'm working with, I may be coming up against their worldview about what I'm doing, and they're afraid.
Right.
Particularly with tarot. Oh, they're afraid of the death card, which I happen to love, by the way.
Right.
It's my favorite card
Yeah,
because
why?
I like change.
Yeah.
Death always precedes something new.
Yeah.
Rebirth. So something must die away. And when you're coming for a reading or a coaching session or an astrological consultation, you've already arrived at a place that is dissatisfactory.
Right.
You want change.
Right.
So the death card is actually influential of something.
Rebirth?
It's rebirth.
Yeah.
But it depends on where you are in the cycle because it's all cyclical.
Yeah.
You may be at the start of it. And generally when you are entering coaching or psychotherapy or any of the healing arts or sciences, depending on where you are in the cycle, how that card may pop up
Right.
can be terrifying for someone. They have a misunderstanding. So my first impulse is to calm them down about its true meaning. Doesn't mean necessarily that you will die.
Right.
It doesn't mean someone close to you will die. It means something maybe within
Right.
is passing away.
Oh, thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, which is good in my opinion.
It is good.
Yeah.
And it is good for change. Where do you do this out of your home?
I do. I have a home office.
And how long is a session? Or do you go to people's homes too?
I can do both.
Right.
Particularly with astrology, it's all done prior.
Right.
There's research, there is, I need to sit with a chart because I need to understand it. Just like with you, I took your birth data because I wanted to understand
Right.
how you are put together. And as I said,
How am I put together?
it's a mirror. Well, as I, I'll just do a quick overview with
Yeah.
permission,
Yeah.
of course. Cancer Sun, which the prevailing need with a Cancer Sun, which is a luminary, it's how we want to shine in the world, is to belong. Belonging is a real psychological need, being part of a tribe. The way a Cancerian person may present will be caring, nurturing, softly. It's indirect too. And what was interesting about your astrology, they were all interesting, is that you have an indirectness. Your Sun and Mercury, which pertains to how your mind operates. Mercury also is in Cancer for you, and both of which are, Cancer is water, and it's the crab, you probably know that.
Yeah.
A crab moves in an indirect way. So there's an indirectness probably in your thinking and your presentation. However, by the same token, your moon, which pertains to your emotional nature, again, a luminary, very important, happens to be in Sagittarius, fire, direct,
Yeah.
frank,
Yeah.
speaks what it wants to speak. So I wondered, how do you integrate
Right.
those two propensities, one of which is to be indirect and one of which is to be direct?
Yeah. I don't know. Closely with kit gloves, I guess, right?
Does it resonate with
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's a profound, and as I said to you earlier, with your North Node, I began with a particular designation, which speaks to the growth in the life, the necessary reach. See, I'm here working that reach.
Right.
Your reach is different, obviously, we all have a different reach, and it's the exact opposite of what you may be really comfortable in, which, again, it's in Cancer for you, which is, again, to be in a belonging, in a tribe, to work with nurturance. One of your competence, because you also have a strong Virgo component, competence. You would have a need for efficiency and to be competent. Those would just
I love it. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. That would be an absolute drive for you.
And I am direct, and you have to be direct and honest, but then sometimes you have to like kind of not be, right? Always be honest and direct, but sometimes you can't voice that opinion, right? Publicly.
So where do you put the energy of the need for it's a psychological need in Cancer to sort of scurry away and to not show the wounds.
I don't scurry away, but I'm always direct and very honest, but not to be like, oh, no, or this or that. I think you just kind of learn, the older you mature too, and the more you experience, you kind of like, take it and you don't take it. Like you can be direct and honest, but you don't have to be like, oh, that's what I think and this is what I want. There's other ways to work around it, and that's how I do it.
So you have, is it fair to say that has been a learning process
It's a learning process, I think, for a lot of people, right? I think that the older you get and the more experience and the more you've learned, the more you can contain yourself and say, okay, you know what, let me look at the situation. Maybe it's not all that, bad, or maybe, okay, I can be direct, but maybe not, now's not the time, or, maybe it will just even itself out, or I can work with it, or I can work with that person. So I think it's the older you are and the more mature, don't you think?
Yes, and also what you're saying is reflective of where your moon is placed in Sagittarius.
Right.
Our moons generally are more predictive of our youthful nature.
Right.
We are more lunar when we are children. We're more emotional. Now, of course, Cancer is an emotional sign. It's very much guided by its emotions. Have you ever considered, here's a thought for you, have you ever considered developing your psychic nature? And do you feel psychic?
Oh, God. I think we always had that gut feeling, don't we? And you got to say,
some are more aware than others.
Yeah.
But talking specifically about you and your propensity and your ability, should you choose to develop it, is very, very present.
Yeah.
You could do so.
Huh. Boy, I could just tell Pete right now what he's going to be having for lunch. When Pete was going to know. I love it. Wow. Very good. You're right on point with everything. Good for you. Do you feel you're direct? Do you feel that you've matured through the years that you can't you see some people that will be so nasty about different situations, and it's like there's no need for that, right?
Right,
You need to
right.
contain yourself. You need to
Right.
be a lady or a gentleman, and there's not a need to like be mean or a thing towards
To
something.
be out there.
Right. You can be honest, but it doesn't mean that you have to like blurt everything out. Correct?
Well, yes, but we also, too, are always at different stages of development.
Right.
We are not all, moving along at the same pace. So we are born with particular propensities. We are born with certain challenges that are inherent in our nature. Some of us have more than others. We all, it's a good life, actually, when there are a lot of challenges because it forces you to grow.
I agree.
So there are lives that are sort of resting and whatnot that are not as challenging. But a good life will be one that has challenge because you're going to grow.
If you had a magic wand, I always ask this because we're going to be wrapping up soon. If you had a magic wand, Janet, and you deal with women all the time, what would you wish for the young women out there in this type of an environment?
That's a good question. I think to be kinder to themselves. I think social media has made it almost impossible to just relax and be. And I think that we are in a culture that is so driven to accomplish. We are a do culture rather than a be culture. And it's hard to be constantly on and to be constantly comparing yourself to someone whose life appears to be something more.
Right.
So I think young women have a very difficult time just allowing themselves to be, because no one's life is perfect, even if it appears to be so. It's not. And they're snapshot moments, but I think that young women are driven. They have to do it all. I remember growing up during the time in which maybe you remember this, the ad that women went out to work, they brought home the bacon, fried it up in the pan, and never let him forget he was a man.
Yeah, the song, right? I'm
Right.
a woman. Yeah,
I'm a woman, right?
Yeah, that was our generation. I don't know. I'm probably your age, or maybe I'm a little older.
You're
I
a
don't
little
know.
younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, that was, we were acculturated to that. I think that it has gone to the 10th power now. Women are not allowed to be anything other than producers. It's not an easy role to just be a nurturer, to be a mom, to be a wife.
I totally agree with you. It's tough.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
And some of us are not designed to go out there and slay dragons. Some of us are meant to be home. And the backlash has yet to happen when who's home? The family is an important model. It is the thing, the family,
I wanted to thank you. I hate to cut us short.
Okay.
Can you believe we're already wrapped up? I wanted to give you my traditional Godiva chocolate for the diva in you. You are outstanding.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to be I'm going to be indirect or direct. I wanted to thank
you
this
very much.
beautiful diva, Janet Eisenberg, for coming out. And we flashed her information, so you'll have to go get your cards read, because I'm going to go get my cards read. But thank you for coming on Dacey's Divas. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and I will see you soon.